My first introduction to Ukraine was 9 years ago. I thought, what a beautiful culture in seeing these stamps. I could see Ukrainian men and women in folk costume every time I visited my stamp album. In this red headdress is a woman that reminds me of Yelena. Yelena I first met 8 years ago. She was a Toastmaster in my club on Chimney Rock Road. What a charming personality she had, especially when she used that precise phrasing in English in her accent. We were sorry to see her go, returning to Ukraine 7 years ago. We'd be sorrier still if we learned that she was one of the millions of refugees in neighboring countries, or worse still, evacuated forcibly to Russia. I pray that she was not one of the thousands killed by the bullets and bombs of Russia. A religious man, we don't connect that with Putin. But in the Russian Orthodox Church, he is head of state, and in collaboration with the head of the church, Bishop Kirill. Putin often bares his chest and reveals the crucifix given to him by his very religious mother. What is lost on him, though, is obedience to the commandments, like thou shalt not covet, nor steal, nor lie, nor murder. Jesus revealed that there were two main commandments: love your God with all your heart and soul and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Putin is clearly no follower of Jesus. So who does he follow? Is there a Rasputin behind Putin? Rasputin, the mad monk who ill-advised the Tsar just prior to the 1916 revolution. Anthony Blair, in the April 4th edition of the Sun-Times, believes that it is Alexander Dugin that is like a Rasputin. Dugin said that Ukraine as a state has no geopolitical meaning, no cultural import, no geographic uniqueness, no ethnic exclusiveness. I beg to differ. I think such an impression as that deserves just one response: canceled. The response of the Ukrainians has been courageous and resourceful, as exemplified in President Zelensky. It's also shown in 2 Ukrainian stamps since the invasion. One of these shows a tank being hauled by a tractor, where the villagers were trying to separate the military hardware from the Russians and succeeded for a time. The second stamp came out on April the 12th, commemorating the day of the invasion, when the flagship of the Russian naval fleet ordered the guards on Snake Island in the Black Sea to lay down their arms. They raised a finger instead. Weeks later, supplied with cruise missiles, they targeted the Moscow warship and it sunk. That ship, a military target, doesn't even compare with all the civilian destruction in hospitals and schools and theaters. And yet these atrocities are attributed by Bishop Kirill as simply a holy war. The Daily Mail on May the 4th, in an article by David Arverne, says that Kirill was in an interview with Pope Francis. Pope Francis, who's the head of the Eastern Orthodox Church. In this meeting with the Western Orthodox Russian Church, the Pope said, "Don't be Putin's altar boy." And Kirill simply launched into 20 minutes of justifying the war. It is hoped that there will one day be a revelation and Kirill can see that the real Lord and Savior is not Putin. In a small revelation, I came up with an idea for a new stamp, not involving Elena, but Queen Olga, who might have been one of her ancestors. Queen Olga, in the 10th century, introduced Christianity to Ukraine. She was commemorated in a statue in 1911. That was torn down some years later by one of the cultural revolutions of Russia. Then in the 1990s, when Ukraine became a democracy, Saint Olga was erected once again. Now with the invasion, Olga has to be protected by sandbags. Sandbags are what our military aid provides, helping provide protection for the people and the culture. And one day, hopefully before too long, we can remove the sandbags and find a culture and a people that is relatively intact. And we can then help in rebuilding.